this is a spin and go that Whiskey Knows played, and I offered to review it for him because he won one of my home games. And in the future, when I need hand histories, I'll probably ask past home game winners, and or I'll ask I'll ask subs and that kind of thing. So I'm going to be reviewing this hand history here and one other, so two total. I was like, one other. But yeah, two total spin and go hand histories here. And these hand histories were played by Whiskey Nose. All right, so let's get started with the first hand here. He has a pocket twos on the button. Pocket twos. Yeah, I know that a lot of people jam pairs from the button here, and I think it's probably totally fine. I personally don't go all in with pocket twos. I would, in this spot, I'd probably limp it, but I think raising is probably fine too. And looks like Whiskey decided to raise it, and he got two calls. So this is a flop where, I mean, I probably just would have checked it, but he decided to bet 40, and he got folded, so who am I to say? Over here, he calls all in with ace. Jack, totally standard, and, well, diamond. So anyway, this is going to be a little bit boring. He's a little bit short stacked, so let's just see where he doubles up here. Because I assume that he wouldn't send me a hand history where he's just busto after that ace jack hand. So, and actually, I won't spoil the outcome. I won't spoil the outcome of this hand history, but I will tell you that it is a $600 prize pool, this hand history. Anyway, so he decided to raise the queens. I mean, I wouldn't raise it. I would just limp it personally. But I think raising is okay. It's not too bad at all. And this is a reg here in the big blind. He probably is calling a lot of hands here. So if you think he's calling a lot of hands, then it does make sense to raise it. So raise, whatever, raise preflop, fine. Probably, like, if you're playing against a couple of regs, you should just jam it for balance. Because, yeah, regs, I think that it's probably best to jam in a 3-reg game on the button, but, you know, over here in this spot, it's whatever. I wouldn't jam on this flop, though. Like, I would probably bet really small on this flop, personally, but I don't think jam is bad by any stretch of the imagination. And against a reg, it might even be best. I don't know. Anyway, he got lucky, and he doubles up here. What buy-in games are you reviewing? Newbie, that's a very good question, and I failed to say at the start. So this is a $100 spin and go, and the prize pool is $600. So the prize pool doesn't really matter, but it is a $100. Pooza is a $100 spin and go reg. We have I mean, I would always call this. I rarely fold anything here in the big blind to this kind of raise. So I would have called with the Jack 3. But yeah, I mean, Jack 3 is not a very good hand, right? But when you have position and you have Jack High, like Jack High is just pretty decent in position there. So I would always be calling. Here, he jams with 10s. I don't know who TNX, I mean, I guess that's thanks, come again. I don't know who come again is. I assume he's a recreational player. Against a recreational player, I would never jam. Against a reg, I might, just for... I mean, I don't even think it's really good against a reg. I wouldn't. I would raise, like, 50 here, is what I would do. Blind versus blind. Or you could limp. I think both of those options are pretty good. But anyway, so Whiskey decided to jam, which obviously jamming is plus EV, like there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong if you're trying to just make chips with jamming, but I think that you'll make more chips in the long run if you raise it smaller, especially against a recreational player. Anyway, things come again called, and looks like Whiskey holds. So we're almost at heads up, not quite. We just gotta... things come again, doubles up. Whiskey needs to fold now. Okay. Alright, so now we're heads up, which I'm pretty excited to review. I would definitely call here. And interesting donk bet. I would never choose the donk bet this flop. I think if you want to try to take the pot away, I think a check raise is a little bit better. Just because, like, from the button's point of view, it's actually kind of easy to flat here. So that's the problem with this donk bet, is that when your Puza on the button, ace high, he could flat, king high, he could flat just any overcards, really. Like, and then the problem is going to be, like, if he flats you here and you're whiskey, I guess from his point of view, you could be like, okay, whatever, I give up. I'm not going to put any money in the pot, any more money. And so that's fine, like, if you think that they're going to fold a lot, but I don't think that most regs here are ever going to fold overcards. So that's why I don't like the donk bet. Anyway, let's keep on going. He did fold, so the donk bet turned out to be very good. 7-4, I would usually play it. Probably with this stack, I would just raise it, but limp folding is fine too. So I would usually play that. 4-2, well, easy check. I would just be checking on this turn. You do get called a lot. Definitely you get called a lot if you bet on that turn, especially if you bet that small. And, I mean, this is just terrible. This is not good. This run out. So we should be checking. Now, if he's betting as a bluff on the turn, I guess he should continue the bluff on the river. So as played, maybe he should just keep betting. But I don't know. I personally would have just checked on the turn, and I would not have bet, and then I would have lost the pot. So anyway, so he had 8-4. So yeah, he lost that to 8-4. Okay, so I think raising is fine. I would usually choose to limp this. The problem is if you limp it, you can't really call a raise. I mean, you can, but I wouldn't. I mean, it does depend on what the size of the raise is. So if Puza were to raise, like, say, people don't usually raise bigger than 105 here against a limp. So if he were to raise 105, I'd be folding queen 7. And obviously, the smaller the raise gets, the wider you can call. So if he raised 90, I'm probably still folding. If he raises 75, I might call. If he raises 60, then I'm definitely calling. So that's kind of, I don't know, like, queen 7 is one of those borderline limp hands. Anyway, Whiskey decided to raise it, so let's see what happens on the flop. I would check this back. Whiskey does. If Puza bets, I would call. He does not. So Whiskey, he can probably bet. Like, it really depends. Like, this is kind of one of those spots where I would check back sometimes for balance, and I would bet sometimes. So anyway, you can probably do either. And then at this point, I would just check it down. I wouldn't bet here. I wouldn't bet. If I was going to bet, I would bet on the turn so that I could get value from draws, is basically what I'm thinking. I don't think that this bet is going to get a lot of value. And anyway. And I'm assuming he was betting for value and not as a bluff. Alright, Puza's raising 60 here. And Whiskey folded Jack 3. So Whiskey doesn't like Jack 3. This is the second time he's folded Jack 3 to a min raise. I would not fold here. I play quite a few hands in the big blind. I'm not exactly sure what my VPIP is at this point, but, like, your VPIP should be at least 70, you know, in the big blind. Like, if the button is jamming a lot of hands, then it can't be that high, but I mean, to a min raise, Jack 3 is perfectly fine to call here. Whiskey knows folded. Let's see. So he's raising 7-2. I would just personally fold 7-2. Like, you probably shouldn't be playing 100% hands on the button. I mean, some people try, but if you're not playing 100% of hands, then 7-2 is one of those hands that you fold. So anyway, I would have folded 7-2. I mean, you can jam, you can get it in with king queen suited. You could, if you have a not all in 3-bet range, you could do that with king queen suited. You could flat like Whiskey did. I mean, king queen suited, there's a lot of hands where it doesn't matter what you do as long as you don't fold. And king queen suited is kind of like one of those hands. Just there's so many ways to play it, and it's just glorious. It's glorious. So yeah, I would call this, which Whiskey did. I would not call a second bet though. I wouldn't. I don't think that most regs are barreling wide here. Especially Whiskey isn't a reg, so that's the other thing. Like, it's kind of scary. He's betting twice against a recreational player. Or Whiskey plays a lot of poker, so recreational to hundreds is what I mean. So like he's not a $100 regular, so it's a little bit scary. Anyway, Puza had 8-7. So Whiskey, he can still limp some hands, but he's kind of in push fold mode. Queen 2 is one of those hands that I would have tried to limp, and then I would fold if Puza decided to bet. By the way, I really hope I'm not butchering Puza's name. I'm so sorry if I am. I'm so sorry. Whiskey, he did decide to fold Queen 2. By the way, I don't have a Nash chart up right now, so like Nash jams, I'm not gonna know really. So I'm just gonna be like, yeah, if it's Nash, jam. If it's not, then don't. It's kind of what I'm gonna say at this point. King 6 seems like a fine jam to me. Yeah, that's fine to bet. You got a call. So you can, I mean, you can double barrel if you want. I would usually check here and then probably bet the river if it gets checked to me. The king makes me wanna bet a little bit less, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure about this spot. Maybe you can bet on the river, but like, what are you getting value from? I don't know. So maybe this is just a check back on the river as well. Well, they would have gotten value from that. This is just a fold. 10-4, not a great hand, but I would probably try to play it. I would probably raise it. I think a raise is okay. I think a limp fold is okay. I wouldn't fold it though. I play a lot of hands on the button heads up. So it's a pretty good hand. Usually I would just be calling this. I would call again on the turn if he bet. And then on the river, I'd probably... Okay, if I'm a recreational player and I don't, like, if this reg doesn't know I'm a reg, like, it's weird reviewing this because, okay, so if I were in Whiskey's spot, I would check call. Against someone that thinks I'm a recreational player, though, I'm not sure. I guess I would check call too, but yeah, it's less good. Let's put it that way, I think. Anyway, that was a good call. What's your general cutoff in the in big blinds to switch to shove fold mode? I don't really have a cutoff where I only push fold. So there's certain stacks where you'll jam or go all in with more hands more often than say limping. But you should still have a non-push mode probably at most stacks. Most stacks 5 big blinds and above, I should say. So I guess if I'm below 5 BBs, I don't usually do anything except push. So I guess it's 5 BBs, newbie. I guess that is the answer. Okay, let's get back to this hand. So Whiskey knows, I'm kind of confused. He raised it here? Yeah. This is what happens when I go to talk about something else and then I go back here. So he raises the jack 3. Whoops, I don't know what I did. This is a donk bet. This is super weird. I would just fold because it's weird. Whiskey decided to be aggro and raise, which I would not have done. But it works, so that's kind of cool for Whiskey. Pooza goes all in, fold. I would limp this. I wouldn't usually raise this here. Luckily, he hit top pair, so that's kind of nice, and he bets big, so I would usually just go half pot. And he decided to put Pooza all in, and Pooza had ace 6, so that's the end. Whiskey Nose took it down. So this was $600. This must have been pretty sweet for him. All right, I got another hand history to put in here. So let's load the second one. File exists. Okay. So I think Theory of Art is a reg. Manic 2, I think, might be random. So that is what I'm thinking. I always like Theory of Art's name. I always think maybe there's a small chance it might be Theory o Fart. What do you think the chances are that it's Theory o Fart and not Theory of Art? I don't know, like, pretty small chance, right? All right. Let's start reviewing this hand history here. Where Whiskey has ace 5. Yep. Calling here. I mean, this is not good. I mean, ace 5 is just... I don't know what I would do here. I guess I would call if Theory of Art called, and then I just fold if he folded. So that's probably what I would have done. It's just like, now, it's just, yeah. Manic must just be so strong there. That's a good fold. And now here we are with jacks. He raised it up to 40. I would have made it 60 myself. He wouldn't have called anyway. Jack 4 is a fine fold. 3-2. He got a walk. That is super nice. I mean, you can raise 10-6 if you want. Like, it's not a very good hand. You can raise it. You can fold it. For sizing, I would usually go 3x here. I would not really want to call. I mean, it's just a little bit more. So I guess that's just the problem. Anyway, he called and he flopped an open-ender. He should probably bet on this turn, I think. After Manic checks back, I think a bet of 100 would be really good here on the turn. And yeah, definitely way better than check calling, I think. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust the bed. The bed grind is just... Alright, so yeah, better. It's definitely better than check calling the turn, I think. And then if he could have bluffed on the river as well, so if he had bet on the turn, he could have bluffed on the river. Now it's just like, you know, I've got 10 highs, not very good. It sucks. I gotta fold. So I think a bet on the turn would have been good. 4s here, I would just jam it in. I would have jammed it in with 4s. He's got to win a flip, which he did. Thank God for spades. Thank God for spades. Manic, he folds. Oh, okay, that was a boring hand. So Whiskey knows min raise. Usually my sizing here in this spot, I raise it 2.5x with these kind of stacks. So I'd be raising it to 75 if I raised. I think with Queen 9, it is better to limp call though. Just like Queen 9 is a pretty good hand, plays pretty well post flop. We don't mind limping and seeing a flop. We also don't mind seeing a raised pot that much, as long as he doesn't raise too big. Like if Whiskey knows limps and Manic raises it huge, then we're not going to probably not going to call. But if he raises it like 75, 80, or even 90, then we can probably call and see a flop with these stacks. So I would have limp called. Jack 2 is a good fold on the button. We're folding that. Oops. Did I skip this hand? I did. This hand, I think you can jam it pre-flop. I think would be fine. You could limp it. I don't know. I don't think... The problem with min raising it is that like it doesn't play super great post-flop out of position if you get flatted. And Manic, if you jams, you don't really want to raise call it either. So it's kind of a bad hand, honestly. Yeah, it's kind of a bad hand, so it sucks. It's not a good thing. Sorry, I was just totally distracted by my chat just now. Anyway, let's finish this hand. So anyway, they're going to the flop. Whiskey. I'm not sure what I would do at this point. Like, it's just because I wouldn't play it this way pre-flop, it just kind of gets weird post-flop. He checks. If Manic had bet, like if I decided to check on this flop, I probably would be check calling if Manic decided to bet. Anyway, we get to the turn. So I presume that this bet is for value. It could, I mean, if I bet here on the turn, I'm betting for value. But anyway, so he's betting 60. I don't know if I would bet, though, in this spot. This hand is just weird at this point, I have to admit. Anyway, he did take it down, and now he has aces. I think he should probably just limp here. That's how I would play it. But either way, whether he limped or he raised, he was going to get all the money, and because, you know, Theory of Art has fours. He has fours. And he held. So let's review heads up now. We got Manic with 500 chips. Whiskey Nose is a really good chip lead. He should definitely call this. I would definitely not fold this. So I probably would just flat. I think flatting is fine. So I'd be flatting, and he agreed with me. Manic checks back, and at this point, I think I would just be check calling, depending on how much Manic bets. Check calling is not great. I don't think betting is great either. Maybe betting small out of position so that maybe a 6 or a 4 can call, or an ace high. I think maybe an ace high would call in that spot. So, yeah, now I'm kind of torn between betting small and check calling. But anyway, just like basically we don't want to check call huge bets is what we don't want to do here. Anyway, I think betting is fine. I think betting is perfectly fine. I would have bet, if I bet, I would have bet a little bit smaller so that ace highs could call. I think is what I would have preferred to do. Okay, so betting here. I think in this spot, what I would do is I would bet like 80, and then I would jam on the river, is what I would do with 8-7 here. And I guess he's just folding now. I don't know, like who knows what Manic had. I really do not know. Yeah, easy all in. I would limp jacks. I would have, but I limp a lot of hands. Like I have a huge limping range on the button, so I like to limp jacks for balance there, and also because if I'm playing against someone that is going to fold pre-flop, I would rather try to see a flop and have them hit an inferior hand and try to get the money in post-flop is what I would try to do in this hand. But yeah, that being said, if you're playing against someone that calls a really huge percentage of pots pre-flop, then you should be raising jacks. If you're playing against someone that is never going to raise a limp, ever gonna raise a limp pre-flop, but will call quite a few hands pre-flop, then raising is better, right? So it all just depends whether you should limp or whether you should raise, depends on who's playing in the big blind and what their tendencies are. And that is why a HUD is fairly useful. It's pretty useful to have a HUD in those cases because you can get an idea of what they've done against limps and against raises in the past. I use PT4 as a HUD in case you're wondering, and I'll leave a link. Sorry, there is a link below my stream. I think there should be a PT4 link down below if you don't have PT4, or if you're watching this on YouTube, there will be a link below for you to click if you do want a trial for PT4. And Whiskey Nose decided to raise and Manic called. So, I mean, it's a fine raise. It's a fine min raise pre-flop. So, on this flop, he's betting 80. I would probably check back on this flop. I think, like, if your opponent... So, there's only 2 other cards that we don't really want to see on the turn. We don't really want to see king. We don't really want to see an ace. Everything else is going to be fine on the turn. So, we're really not that scared of the turn. I think too many hands that call pre-flop will fold. Too many hands that we beat, sorry, on this flop will fold to our c-bet. But, like, a queen is never folding. It's true that a 10's never folding, but we can also get value from a 10 on the turn. So, I would prefer to check back this flop. And stack sizes, it's not like we gotta really build a huge pot here with given stack sizes, just because, I mean, we're so short, right? So I think checking back on this flop is totally fine. So I would have checked, and but you know, Whiskey didn't. He bet and Manic folded. So on this hand, pretty much we're folding to any rise. But we get to see a flop for free, and we flop the nutters. So I'd raise it. I'd raise it small, though. I'd raise it to, like... You could raise it to 100, and that would probably be fine. I'd probably raise it to 100. You probably could also raise it to 90. He decided to call, and that's not the nicest river. Not the nicest turn, sorry. Not the nicest river. Like, it's just... Yeah, I don't know. This is weird. This whole hand is just weird at this point. Okay. Probably getting it in sometimes with 10-9 depending on this player. Jamming ace-jack. I'm not exactly sure what 10-9 is as a Nash call, so there is a chance that Manic had a few too many chips, so making 10-9 a good fold. But we can't assume... Sorry, I'm just going back to this hand like I started talking about this after. We can't really assume that our opponent is jamming Nash. So even if 10-9 were a Nash call, we might want to still fold it against this opponent, because this opponent's not a regular. We don't really know what they're doing, so probably better to just fold it. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure. I don't have a Nash chart in front of me right now. If it is a Nash call, it's barely a Nash call and probably still not a great call. So I think just folding here is just fine. We already went over that. So we got this hand over here. We should just jam this in over his limp. We should have jammed it in. And 5-3 suited, okay. And equity, 5-3 suited against queen 10, not bad at all. And he was able to win. So there you go. This is, I mean, Whiskey Nose won both. And by the way, they were both 600s, so he won $1,200 in 2 spin and goes here, which is pretty sweet. So yeah, if you are watching this here on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Go ahead and give my video a thumbs up if you don't mind doing so, and or sub to my channel. It really does help me a lot. Thank you so much. And if you're here watching on Twitch, if you have any questions about any of the hands that you saw, go ahead and ask me in the chat. And I will be very happy to answer any questions that you might have. Very happy. And yeah, that was kind of fun to review those hand histories here on stream.